In order to improve your ear and be able to learn music more quickly, one of the skills you need to have is the ability to identify intervals. A musical interval is the pitch difference between two notes, be it one at a time or simultaneously. Pretty much all the core concepts of harmony can be described in terms of interval relations. Chords, chord extensions, harmonic progressions, scales, modulations, more advanced business like set theory, intervals are the basic building blocks of it all. Without intervals in music, all we'd have is... Here in the Western world, we use 12 tones to the octave. That means that there are a dozen separately, distinctly named pitches adjacent to each other before you start repeating note names. Here they are on a keyboard. You may have seen this before. We go from A up to G with black notes in between, except for here and here. As you go left, the pitches get lower. Go right, and they get higher. The smallest interval distance between two pitches is a half step, or semitone. If you run up or down adjacent pitches by half steps, that's called moving chromatically. But the music you listen to uses intervals that are much larger than a half step. Thankfully, the humble semitone is also our measuring stick. All intervals are gauged by their number of half steps. The distance of two half steps is called a whole step, and it's another common way to describe the larger intervals. The actual nomenclature, though, is based on a diatonic scale. That means a scale made up of 7 individual notes, with each of the letters A through G appearing only once. Here's the basic rundown of the most common interval names. Technically, the interval of 0 half steps is called a perfect unison. It's the same pitch, but again. A distance of 1 semitone is called a minor second. 2 semitones, or a whole step, is a major second. 3 semitones is a minor third. 4 semitones, or 2 whole tones, is a major third. 5 semitones is a perfect fourth. I'll talk later about the meaning of the words major, minor, and perfect. 6 semitones is also called a tritone. You've probably heard of this one. It's either a diminished fifth or an augmented fourth, depending on context. 7 semitones is a perfect fifth. This is one of the most important intervals to understand and recognize. 8 half steps, and that's a minor 6. 9, and you get a major 6. 10 semitones is a minor 7th, and 11 is a major 7th, which is probably the hardest one for me to recognize by ear. Thankfully, it's uncommon in melodies. And at 12 semitones up, we hit the octave, or a perfect octave to be more technical, and the note names begin to repeat. We'll stop here for now. You probably noticed that when there's a minor interval, the major is just a half step above. If we go 1 half step further above the major version, then we get the augmented interval. If we go a half step below the minor, then we get the diminished version. And it's similar for the perfect intervals too. 1 half step up from the perfect, it's augmented. Half step below perfect, it's diminished. Easy. So with all that said, you may also notice that there can be multiple names for the same intervallic distance. 2 half steps can be either a major second or a diminished third. 10 half steps can be either a minor 7 or an augmented 6. Our friends over at Wikipedia have created a lovely table that shows the intervals named as either major, minor, perfect, or as augmented diminished. And so you may ask, Jackson, how do I know the proper terminology? This is an important point, and one that I see folks get wrong all the time. To give an example, in a diatonic scale, the second scale degree is always 1 note letter higher than the first. The third degree is always 2 note letters up, and so on. Your interval names have to also follow this convention. Say that you want to figure out the interval from an A up to a C sharp. Before you even count the half steps, you already know that it's going to be some kind of third. Even if the step distance can equate to some other name, it has to be a third because it's an A note up to a C note. 2 note letters away. A up to C sharp is a major third, not a diminished fourth. A diminished fourth would be A up to D flat. This will become second nature to you after a while, but it's vital to understand so you do not develop bad habits that will slow you down and make it harder for others to understand your work. And just so you know, intervals that are higher than an octave are numbered just how you probably think they are. An octave plus a major second is a major ninth. An octave plus a perfect fifth is a perfect 12th. You just add 7 to the number. 2 octaves is a perfect 15th, and that's where we really stop. So all that is about how we discuss and name our intervals, but what about actually hearing and identifying them? Well, unfortunately, there's not that much advice to give. It's all about your memory and your ability to identify how certain intervals sound and feel. Just like when you're training your muscle memory when you learn how to swing a golf club or flip something in a frying pan, you have to download these intervals into your brain so you can recall them later when you're listening to music. When I was first learning this stuff, we would sometimes use an interval cheat sheet. It had a bunch of popular tunes on it, with each one showcasing a particular interval. Like in the chorus of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, the first 2 notes are an octave apart. Another one is the Jaws theme, where the main ostinato figure is half steps alternating up and down. There are many tunes out there that can help you identify the sound of certain intervals. However, I should stress that this is definitely something you should outgrow and leave behind as you improve. The ultimate goal should be to have the ability to recognize as many intervals as possible just by ear. I think this is what some people call relative pitch, but I cannot stand that phrase. Please don't say it. And you might be unaware of it, but you likely already know several types of intervals. Every electric guitar player knows what a perfect fifth is. No one needs to be told twice how a tritone feels. And minor seconds will get on anyone's nerves. All you need to do is drill yourself to identify and recognize the others, and your musical comprehension will expand enormously. I have some ideas on how to continue this discussion of intervals, but if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Thank you for watching.